just caught the tail end of that. Welcome to the Rude Dog Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We certainly have a live one for you today. When I say live, there are no dead fish on the show. Just a rude dog, and of course, gotta love that NBA theme. Gotta love that. Oh yeah, they updated it, and of course, everybody likes updates. We're gonna update you as we with. I love to do that. Of course, music cues in when I didn't want it to. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Look, I'm starting over again. Speaking of starting over again, the NBA season is back. I'm so excited about this last night. Maybe not as excited as I thought I was because of the outcome of the game, but how it went down, who is playing. But nevertheless, the NBA season is in full swing. There's a doubleheader tonight, and it's going to be a good one. But last night, let's do a quick reflection here. Last night was not the welcoming party that guys like Anthony Davis wanted, even though he showed up early and often to the game. And of course, LeBron James showed up early, sort of, but not often. And of course, late in the game. We're going to go through that. But welcome the effervescently energetic one and only Tucker, Dale Booth. Tucker, thanks, man, for coming on the show. It's been a little bit, I'll say.
Rudy, man, it's Halloween, so it's a dead man's party. Can we ask for more? Oh, man. Dead man's party in the NBA, bro.
Yeah, no doubt about that one. It just goes after a day or so when Sam Darnold was talking about ghosts on the field at MetLife. Anyway, we're not going to go there. It's always a dead man's party when you're talking about the NBA and you're talking about what's going on in Los Angeles. Of course, Lakers, Clippers. You're local there more so than I am. Of course, that's where I'm from, Southern California originally. I don't know if you were at that game or if you'd followed the game or watched the game or T-vote or whatever the heck they call it nowadays, but it certainly was a good game. It was what we were expecting, at least from a fan standpoint, from an analytics standpoint, from what LeBron James did and did not do. That remains to be seen. He was hot early often. They had announced earlier in the season he's going to be playing point guard. I don't necessarily like that because he's never been a point guard. He understands that position, but he didn't execute it. I didn't think he executed it as a point guard for this Lakers team. Of course, you need to put in load management. AD took a break. LeBron took a break. You had other guys who were in there, but there was just something missing from LeBron James's game in relation to what he did down the stretch. Of course, the whole Lakers team shot a measly 33% in the fourth quarter. That's a problem. What do you think about LeBron James' efforts last night? And could that position of being the point guard be temporary through Frank Vogel's new offensive system?
Well, first of all, let me just talk about the game in general. I did watch the entire game from opening tip till the end. And I don't think it was a terrible game for either team. I think obviously people are going to jump to like huge overreactions based on one game about whether the Lakers win or lose. So I knew that was going to happen. But to your question, I think it's appropriate that LeBron starts out the season handling the ball, mainly just because I don't think they have any great point guards on that team. I know people can say what they want about Caldwell Pope. I don't think he's starting caliber point guard in the league. He's kind of like the best option they've got. I do agree, Rudy, that I think he's probably better served being like a small forward or power forward or, even up front playing minutes in the post. But they've got what they've got, and LeBron is the third most assists in NBA history. So, he is obviously a really good distributor of the ball. I think the problem last night for the Lakers specifically was that Coach wanted to really early establish Anthony Davis early and often. And then somehow, as the game kind of ground on, the defense from the Clippers adjusted to that, and Davis got completely froze out of the end of that game. And they kind of didn't really change their game plan. The Lakers kind of kept on trying to force the ball inside to Davis, even though the Clippers very astutely adjusted to that and took that option away from them and started getting them to cough up the ball. I don't think it was a terrible game for the Lakers. Guys, if anything, some of these new guys that came in, like Danny Green, had a great shooting night, shot him back into that game, put up more points than any Laker in a debut ever, I think, or at least one of the greatest of all time as far as 35 points from him. I think LeBron and Anthony Davis look good in the first half, and I think that they cannot carry this team by themselves. And I think that now we've talked all about the Lakers and not about the Clippers. As an LA fan, obviously we all kind of trend towards the Lakers, and we all, we're a Laker town. But what's so exciting to me about this season, and what I kind of consoled myself with as a Lakers fan last night, is that the Clippers are kind of like the lovable underdogs. People can hate on them if they want, but I've never been that kind of LA fan. I think there's a lot of LA fans that feel like we'd love to see the Clippers actually do well for once. And Kawhi Leonard, by not joining the Lakers, as sad as that was for us Lakers fans, has made this a really exciting time to be watching LA basketball. I mean, Kawhi is the quiet assassin, man. He quietly kicked everybody's butt last night. And, Paul George is sitting on the sidelines. So they got another all-star caliber guy coming back at some point. I think the Clippers' upside is humongous, and I think the Lakers are going to get better as the season goes on.
When I look at the Lakers and I look at what they try to do, and Ian, we're talking about what happened last night, opening day, Lakers, Clippers, Battle for L.A., and it definitely was. It was a great game from end to end, from tip to 0 seconds in the fourth on the clock, and the game is over. There are a lot of great things I've seen the Lakers do. They used the pick and roll. They got Anthony Davis inside, involved in the paint. He was a willing passer, willing participant. And then you have a guy who's now second stint with the Lakers, and that would be Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard came in. He looked decent. He had 1 assist, 6 rebounds, 3 points. KCP and Contavious Caldwell-Pope, he contributed with 27. Bradley at 24. But they need a dagger 3-point shooter. They just do. I think that would have been more a contention down in the third quarter when you have a guy who's going to come off the bench and contribute immediately, and we've seen that happen with Avery Bradley with 24 points. KCP, of course, putting up KCP type numbers as he did last season, and the Danny Green, the dagger guy who brought them back in the third quarter, almost from the dead. Essentially, they were down well over 12 points. But JaVale McGee didn't really contribute a whole lot. I don't care for him much in the center position, and I know they need somebody else in that center position. And I hate to make comparisons, but look, I'm not impressed with JaVale McGee at all. I'm just not. He did get 4 points and 2 rebounds and played 17 minutes, but that was it. And clearly Vogel realized that he's not really contributing in the way that he needed to, the way that he should have. Of course, his Instagram, his social media, it's all screaming about how I'm dialed in and I'm ready to go. He may be in some manner, but being the center for this team, I don't believe that he's physical enough, big enough, and of course dubious enough to take over some of the late Lakers lore of dominant centers like Shaquille O'Neal. I'm not comparing him to Shaquille O'Neal, but a dominant center. I just don't think JaVale McGee is that guy. However, LeBron James, as they say forward, but he's not. He played point guard yesterday, which I think he should go back to being playing forward. He was more effective that way. Point guard, I don't think so. You need somebody fast, maybe not as sticker bodied, slightly thinner, so that way you can run up and down the floor and not really run out and tire yourself out to a certain degree that requires somebody like LeBron James to sit out and actually do. Anthony Davis was absolutely superb last night in his debut in number 3, being a very, very strong forward. He did have some miscalculated shots. Of course, that's going to happen when you think you're going to make the shot and it's going to go in. You don't, because it just doesn't go in. He had 37 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and almost a triple-double with 25 points. But more importantly, I think looking forward for this team, I'm not into overreaction Monday through Monday, to be honest with you. One game does not define who the Lakers are or are not. Where do you see the Lakers making changes, or maybe see somebody in the free agent market currently? And I'm not talking about Melo, so forget it. Drop that mic at the doorstep because Melo's not the answer here. But who do you see out there who could be available to contribute and be an immediate contributor to this Lakers team?
I don't even know if they got to go outside of who they got. I think they just got to kind of experiment with the parts that they've got. I think obviously there was a lot of hype around Boogie Cousins coming in, and now that's not going to happen for various reasons. I think Dwight Howard has, more potential than he's had in years in my mind as far as what he's capable of doing, but he's got to prove it. And I think that you're right. I think that this may be a tinkering process where they do have to move LeBron off the point and have him back down on the post. It seemed like when they were doing their best, LeBron and Anthony Davis were getting it inside and playing like what Shaq was calling at halftime, old school basketball. It seemed like that kind of post them up, grind them down, slow down the pace is working with those big guys. But they don't have a lot of bombers. The only bomber that I saw last night that was consistent was Danny Green. So they got one guy that seems to be able to hit the knockdown shot. So if they don't have a lot of bombers, they're going to have to play like a San Antonio Spurs kind of grind you down, post you up, slow down the pace kind of game. And then it really comes down to your defense. Again, I want to talk about the Clippers, though, Rudy. They have some really good defensive components on that Clippers team. I feel like Harold played phenomenal last night. I mean, he was so
tons
good.
Tons of energy. I've seen him going in, and he wanted to show off his guns, and I'm thinking, those are more like pea shooters. I don't know that you can call them guns necessarily. He's at least not yet, but he's a big guy, big body, big inside, and they really advantaged. They had the advantage because they had a guy like that inside of the paint, taking the hits, going to the net.
They got shooters for days. We talk about knockdown shooters. My gosh. Lou Williams was just unreal. He's kind of an ageless wonder out there, just knocking down big shots for them. Almost everybody on their team was hitting big shots when it counted, when they needed them. So, and of course, you got Kawhi Leonard, who's like pretty much the best guy pound for pound in the league now as your guy. And again, I say, Paul George didn't even play. You got a guy as good as him on offense and defense, mending up. No rush to get him back, obviously. He'll come back. Wow, they've got a lot of pieces there. So I think, it's going to be extremely fascinating to watch this dynamic of two L.A. basketball teams that are both looking like championship contenders at the same time for once. Because I don't think we've ever been able to say that about the Clippers, right? That they look like a championship contender on day one. But they did last night. They surely did.
Well, they did. They had so many people had so much energy between Leonard, Patterson, Zubac getting inside, just slamming it down. Patrick Beverley, the dynamite guy, the vocal leader on that bench for the Clippers. Shamet, Harrell, obviously, aforementioned, Bruiser, gun carrier on the hardwood. Lou Williams just hitting dagger. I mean, dagger after dagger. He came off one shot. It was on the left-hand side on the hardwood. If you're sitting behind the other side of the court, he was on his left and he was shooting to his right, and I was just completely amazed by that athleticism and the type of mentality and focus that takes to make those shots. He was not the high scorer. Montrezl Harrell, however, was a high scorer and beat out Kawhi Leonard. But again, he's a guy that you can always count on once you stick Lou Williams out on the floor. And talk about sweet shots. Sweet time and well spent in regards to Steve Ballmer putting this all together.
Beverly is like the heart and soul of that team. My parents were watching the game with me last night. They were staying up here at the house, and they both go, "Who's this guy?" They don't follow the NBA that close. Who's this guy? They're talking about Beverly because he's all getting up in LeBron's grill and he's doing his agitator routine. And I go, he's probably the guy that you'd least like as a fan if he was on the opposing team, and you'd probably love most if he was on your team. He's one of those kind of guys. He's a Draymond Green. He's a Dennis Rodman. He's a Bill Laimbeer, if I can just throw other names out that are similar. It's not that he's the most talented, although he is a great defensive player, but he's got a ton of heart. He gets fired up, and he fires up his teammates with his passion. And he always agitates the star player on the other team. It gets in their head, especially if you can be got like LeBron and AD were last night and obviously can be. He gets in your head. He messes with Kevin Durant. He made Kevin Durant think twice in the playoffs last year. I mean, this is a guy that's like an X factor for them. And you mentioned Zubac. I feel like that's one of the guys that the Lakers are bemoaning losing the most right now. Because think about Zubac at center, with Anthony Davis at power forward and LeBron at point guard and Danny Green and Avery Bradley. That'd be a squad right there. Magic Johnson was a fool to let him go. That was one of the most foolish moves he made last year.
Well, don't forget, we are talking about Magic Johnson, and lots of other general managers, at least former general manager or current general managers, can really make that claim to say, you know what, I really bit the big one, and I really sucked at this, and I shouldn't have. I should have made better, more executable type of decision making that would enable this team to go above mediocrity, to be above this carnage of what was left over. Of course, Magic Johnson trying to save face with, I'm leaving, and he didn't even tell LeBron James. So at least that's how he says it. But that's water under the bridge, under the 405. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the Clippers. This is Rudy Reyes, joined by Tucker Dale, both here on the Rude Dog Show. Look, if you want to market with me, I got some big news. I tweeted out earlier, but I definitely want to bring a company along with me to help me do what I do best and help them simultaneously by marketing on the radio. Yes, terrestrial radio. And podcast, sure, why not? Bring it into a podcast. I do podcasts all the time. So bring it in, bring it down, let me know what your thoughts are. We can certainly go from there. Drop me an email at TheRudeDogShow@hotmail.com. Yes, I said Hotmail. I didn't stutter. It's Hotmail. Yes, I know. People, Hotmail? What is Hotmail? It would deliver to you like a pizza to your doorstep?
22 years you can find me, Tucker Booth at Hotmail. I'll never give it up. I'm with you, Rudy.
Well, at least you know we're on the same page there. Joined by Tucker Dale Booth here. I want to talk a little bit more about the Clippers because when you look at the Clippers last night, and I'm talking about throughout, I don't mean just a moment in time, a snapshot, if you will, in the beginning of this game. It was about almost 52% from the field. Lakers are 43.5, but it did not help them when you had LeBron James going 0 for 3, 0 for 4, trying to make something out of nothing with horrible passing. I understand they're tired, but that's when you get your bench involved in the process to take the weight off of the shoulders of those guys who have been starting. And, of course, the Lakers were better from 3 at almost 40% shooting, 13 for 33. And, of course, the free throws. Now, that is – I know it's kind of an overlooked stat, and it really doesn't matter. But, look, the charity stripe's a charity stripe for a reason. And both teams shot relatively well, almost 72% for the Lakers, and almost 71 for the Clippers. And I think when you look at this game overall, it wasn't abysmal by the Lakers by any means. Again, I don't deal with overreaction. I deal with reaction, right? So action equals reaction. My reaction to this game overall, and I'll get your take on this in a minute, Tucker. My take on this game specifically is you can't read too much into it. This is one game. This is the point where they have to recognize that there are certain deficiencies. You have to play all 4 quarters, every single second, every single pass. It's got to count to create points, to create opportunities to get those points. I think the Lakers were deficient in that in the fourth, and that's simply why they lost. Now, on the other side of the coin, when you look at the Clippers and what they did, as aforementioned numbers here, this is Rudy Reyes, Tucker Dale Booth on the Rude Dog Show. We're live here on Spreaker. And, of course, talking about the NBA and opening day yesterday, specifically Lakers and Clippers. Feel free to chime in live on Spreaker with any messages or comments. You can go to my Facebook page to do that. You can leave me a comment on TheRudeDogShow.com. And, of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at RudeDogReyes. And love to have a conversation there as well. But what really stood out to me from what the Clippers did is the energy, is a consistency. Is there were more shooters. They got open more often. They were more opportunistic, and ultimately that's the difference between what they did to win and what the Lakers didn't do to take this W on the Clippers' home floor as their opening day game. What are your takes in regards to why, who, when, how, and what do the Lakers do moving forward to clearly get back in this long, drawn-out NBA season early on?
Well, you said the words energy, right? I think that there was plenty of energy, but the key word for the Clippers was chemistry, because they pretty much maintained the core nucleus of a pretty solid team from last year, a team solid enough that without the 2 All-Stars that came in this summer, was able to push the Golden State Warriors to 6 hard-fought games in the first round and make them sweat when everybody thought it was a done deal that at that point with Kevin Durant that they'd just stomp on the Clippers. That didn't happen. And now you added 2 all-star level players, including the finals MVP in Kawhi Leonard. So it's chemistry. And the thing is, we'll see when Paul George gets in the mix, but Kawhi is such a complimentary player. It's probably one of the greatest things you can say about Kawhi is he just compliments people so well. He's like LeBron, only less needy as far as touches and stuff. Like, he does all the same stuff, and he's a better defender, and he's good at passing, and he's good at rebounding and playing defense, and just being positive in so many different ways. So he's a real complimentary player, and the chemistry on the Clips is just already there on night one. So they're feeling great. You ask, what do the Lakers need to do? They need to find chemistry. These are all new guys that are pretty much showing up. LeBron is like one of the oldest guys on the team now, and he's new. I mean, they gutted most of their core nucleus to get Anthony Davis. So most of the Lakers core nucleus from last year are now on the Pelicans. And you're looking at, a bunch of new guys that came in on the cheap, most of them, to surround two incredibly expensive players who are expected to win a championship now. So there's pressure on their shoulders. I'm not making excuses for them. They accepted that pressure. This was surely an all-in kind of situation for them. But they said it last night when they interviewed Anthony Davis. He says, yes, he would be extremely disappointed if they don't win the championship this year. So this is no like, oh, we'll see how it goes, and we don't win, it's all right. It's all in now. So in order for them to be as good as the Clippers played last night, they're going to have to figure out how to really sync up all of these guys coming in from all these different places, and they're going to have to do it during the season. So I don't think that's impossible. It's an 82-game season, Rudy. I don't think it's impossible at all, especially when you got this much talent, when you got guys like Danny Green coming over from championship team. He's got a championship pedigree from the Spurs and the Raptors. When you got other good guys that are coming in, like Avery Bradley, who I think is a real good player. I think, there's a lot to be enthused about if you're a Laker fan. But the one thing that I surely saw last night was that the chemistry wasn't there like it was for the Clips. LeBron put it right in Dwight's hands a couple times, and Dwight couldn't throw it down. LeBron hooked up a lot of guys with a lot of looks that they just couldn't hit. And it's night one. I'd have just been still trying to find her stride, whatnot. But the Clips already were hot on night one. So that's a chemistry thing, man.
Yeah,
that's feeling good with each other kind of thing.
Sure. No, absolutely. They need to tighten up defensive formations. So I witnessed last night when I watched the go-around and the go by blowing by would-be defenders of the Lakers to they just went to the hole. They just took it to them. That left-handed dunk by Kawhi Leonard was a very solid example of that. Blowing by defense. You had Danny Green, JaVale McGee, and of course LeBron James, and it was a left-handed dunk over this defenseless, almost Lakers team at times. I'm not going to suggest that they just gave up the farm and there was no defense at all. What I'm saying is down the stretch in certain aspects, in certain areas, they were lacking defensively because they couldn't. In other words, they just allowed shooters to just shoot instead of going out to contest and jump and leap and put your hands up and do those things. They did not do that. They did not do that. And it reminds me, and it's reminiscent of what happened last year over and over and over again. Look, the sky's not falling. The purple and gold is not, drowning in a rainbow ocean with no paddles of licorice. Okay, so if anybody's gonna be mad about say the Lakers season's over, then do you believe that the skies outside, other than the ones that I'm looking at, are rainbow filled with Skittles? Okay, so right now the bottom line to Lakers is, and everybody else, Laker Nation, everybody, all inclusive. Of course, I love talking about the Lakers and the differentials, being from Los Angeles myself, and of course, to kind of touch on what you were talking about for half a minute, and then we'll kind of wrap this up, is that the Clippers have always been borderline, have always looked up to the big brother being the L.A. Lakers. Was this a battle for L.A.? It sure was. Was it on display last night? Yes, it was. You're going to see more of this from both of these teams as the season goes on. You darn straight. You're going to. There's no question. The bigger question is when these teams face off again, this time Lakers home court, at Staples Center this year. Of course, the Steam Bomber Stadium is going to be kind of it's going to be probably 5 or 6 years at least, or somewhere in that genre. But hats off to Steve Ballmer. Hats off to Steve Ballmer, and we both have the same exact club, which is the Bald Club. But regardless of that, Steve Ballmer has done an absolute fantastic job. He really has. And of course, I was watching the Lakers press conference. That was good. I watched the Clippers post-game, pre-game entry into the season conference with Steve Ballmer on stage. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy. Of course, most of that coming from Steve Ballmer himself. And of course, he's a huge and avid basketball fan. But more importantly, he helped build this team to get Kawhi Leonard. Wanted to come back to L.A., but didn't want to do it under LeBron James's term. And I think that he got away with it. And I think that there are 3 people who won in this sweepstakes to acquire Kawhi Leonard. That was Kawhi himself, first and foremost, because he wanted to come back home but didn't want to do it in the Lakers uniform. But he won himself personally because he's home. He gets to be home for the first time in years. Toronto's a long, far cry from being in Southern California. I can tell you that. I've never been to Canada, but I know the area. I understand the dynamics of it. And then thirdly, the fans won. The Clippers fans won. Because now to get a guy who helps them be even more so ultra competitive than they ever have been. Was that on display last night? Absolutely. Did they have the energy that you'd aforementioned? Absolutely. Are you going to see more of this with a guy like Kawhi Leonard who's leading and going to lead quietly on the floor, but yet let his actions and points and rebounds and mentality and attitude towards the game in the locker room lead the way, lead the direction is where this Clippers team is actually going? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I tip my hat to Ballmer. I tip my hat to the Clippers. And I really clip my hat to everybody who participated in helping make this team who it is.
I'll give it up, Rudy. Night and day, if you're talking ownership, when you're looking at Donald Sterling versus Steve Ballmer. Wow. What a complete turnaround for the Clips after years of futility and ineptitude and worse with Sterling. I mean, what a turnaround. But let's give Kawhi one more, time around the block here with giving him his due. If I was going to coach a young person with a ton of basketball talent on how to, what the diagram, what the blueprint is for how to own the NBA and conquer the NBA, or just conquer basketball in general, I would say act like this guy. It's not like there aren't other guys out there that are playing their heart out and busting their butt on the court. He's not the only one doing that, but he does it quietly. He walks softly and carries a big stick. He never, ever woofs to the media about anything. If anything, that's like the greatest thing about him is he's like mum with the media. He won't even talk to him most of the time. And when he does, it's like super duper buttoned up. He never is about his brand. He's never about trying to be a movie star. He's never about any of this stuff that puts extra pressure and hate on your name. All he does is show up and kick butt and go home and mind his business. And he does it quietly and respectfully. Find me anyone that can say boo about Kawhi Leonard, man. Nobody. I look online. Everything's good. And it's because he's done nothing to offend. I'm one of these people, I'm a LeBron apologist. I'm always defending LeBron as far as people that are too harsh on him. But he speaks too much. And maybe that's because he is the greatest of modern times, and so people expect him to speak. But he always gets up on that podium and puts his foot in his mouth. He's like a presidential candidate up there. He's like Joe Biden up there, like constantly saying things and getting parsed for it and criticized for it and this and that. Everything that comes out of his mouth becomes a controversy. I swear, it's like Kawhi Leonard is just a quiet killer. And, man, that's how you want to play. That's how any should want to play.
With that kind of mentality, that kind of attitude that he has, I think that's just a part of who he is as an individual, because there were some rumors floating around that LeBron James comments about, China and Dan Worley, and it was just not the right time, not good timing. You're talking about LeBron James saying too much. He said too much. I understand people expect for him to talk about it, expect for him to elaborate on something that he feels, but when you're in somebody else's country and you're talking about how you're apologizing for what somebody else says, that's that doesn't send the right message. It doesn't send the right type of answer to those that are seeking a better answer than the one you gave them, which is just absolute garbage. I'm not saying that LeBron James doesn't know what he's talking about. What I'm saying is that he was talking about how Dan Worley didn't have a clue what's going on from a Chinese standpoint. They're a different type of country and things of that nature. The Chinese government took that seriously. They did, so much so that they cut off basketball transmission throughout China, which is bad for the NBA. Bad look for Adam Silver, who has to now do damage control over Dan Worley and now LeBron James. Who else is going to come out and start talking about things that they really don't know? They really don't understand. They really don't have a concept.
And the worst part for LeBron is that he has so willingly steered into making very controversial political statements about other issues that involve freedom of speech and civil rights. You know, he's been a big champion, you know, whether it was Trayvon Martin or Eric Garner or, you know, Ferguson, Missouri, or we can go on and on. He's always been real outspoken when it's stuff like that. And now here's another issue that surely involves human rights on an even more massive level than what he's talking about. And suddenly he's apologizing for someone speaking out about it, essentially, and scolding a general manager for doing this. And again, if I want to defend him, I get it. He's one of the heads of the NBA Players Association. It's not that it necessarily messes up his money, although it does. It's, you know, LeBron's rich. It messes up the money of future guys that are trying to get bigger contracts that haven't gotten bigger contracts yet because the money streams disappear. And so what he's saying is Daryl Morey's doing that. He's screwing up potential future money streams for other guys, and that's what he wasn't considering. However, LeBron, are you not doing that when you speak out on these civil rights issues? There are people that absolutely viciously disagree with you on these issues. It's not like talking out about Trayvon Martin didn't fire up half the country on the opposite side. So again, it's just a hypocritical look. And I love LeBron, you know I do. But this is the thing. When they put a microphone in your face and they expect you to have a comment, sometimes the best answer, especially when it's something like China, is no comments. It's the best answer.
Yeah, sometimes less is more. I may have said this on the show or not. If not, I'm going to say it now. Less is more. If you're not sure about something, don't talk about it. If you don't understand the human crises that is China that's been going on with this predominantly leadership, dictatorship type of monopolized society, just don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. It's not your room to talk about political correspondence. Stick to basketball. And it's almost the equivalent. I hate using this. I hate it. But it's shut up and shoot. Shut up and play ball. Or
and it's
just
funny,
shut up
Laura
altogether.
Ingraham on Fox News is telling him to shut up and dribble. He's like, you're a racist. And then China tells him to shut up and dribble, and he's like, dribble, dribble, dribble. I mean, it's amazing to me because she obviously doesn't have any kind of financial impact on him personally and on the league. At least not in the same kind of crushing way that China does. And again, we got to remember something here. It's not just that China won't show basketball games. It's that China's got its fingers in so many pies business-wise. So much distribution and manufacturing comes from there.
They have for decades. And now all of a sudden, because someone decided to speak unintelligently about a topic they had no business talking about, hence the word unintelligently, it screwed up the entire stream of more additional funds that the league could otherwise have seen. Of course, everybody here in the U.S. talk about, you know, the NBA, there's sports shows across the country, things of that nature. But more importantly, that affects us inadvertently and even indirectly. If you want to have that conversation, of course, we don't have time for that one. However, I'm going to say this about this Clippers-Lakers game. It was a test as to who's going to win L.A. The Clippers exposed the Lakers to some of the weaknesses that they seen, that they scouted, that they watched, that they spent their time in their own studio or media room to look at the kinds of things that the Lakers may try to throw at them and could be from a historical value. We don't know. But more importantly, it's about what not to do, what traps not to fall into, defensive motions, personnel groupings, and all types of other nuancial things. So basically, the Lakers didn't answer the doorbell when their door was rang, essentially, and the Clippers are the ones who were ringing their doorbell and decided to dunk all over them. basically outplayed the Lakers in this. I wouldn't say critical round one, but it certainly sets the pace for the rest of the season. And of course, the Lakers will now have the ability to take them again, this time on their own home court. And oddly enough, it is at Staples Center.
Well, it's funny, Rudy. The instant that game is over, I always check the temperature on Twitter, and Twitter is instantly going all in on LeBron again, going, "You're not Kobe." Every Lakers fan, "You're not Kobe." Every hater of LeBron, "You're not Michael Jordan. You're not Kobe." And I'm going to take one moment to try and give LeBron his due again. If we're just talking from a basketball standpoint, he's obviously not Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. I don't even think it's worth comparing them. They're not even the same position.
No.
But because he is pound for pound the greatest player of modern times, he will get compared to the pound for pound greatest player of modern times from before. So I get why they compare him to him, and I get why Lakers fans are so, loyal to Kobe. But the thing is, Laker fans, Kobe Bryant never passed the ball ever. Kobe Bryant jacked up terrible shots on his way to those games. Kobe Bryant straight ruined chemistry with teammates because of the fact that he wouldn't pass and he shot ridiculous shots half the time. And again, I love Kobe, but he did. LeBron James, for better or worse, is like a big, oversized point guard who wants to hook everybody else up. That's how he's always been. And you can say it's because he's scared and because he's got no heart and whatever. I don't believe that. I think heart comes in different forms, man. You don't get to be the third all-time in assists in the NBA with no heart. If anything, you got a big heart. You want to hook everyone up. And he's an amazing passer. Just watch highlight reels of his passing. It's phenomenal. So we got to stop doing this "you're not Kobe, you're not Mike" routine with LeBron, because, he's not. But is he great? Yes. Is he great at what he does? Yes. Doc Rivers says he compares him to Magic Johnson, more or less. What did Magic do? Magic got everybody else involved. And he scored. But he wasn't the primary option. We got to stop looking at LeBron as the primary option. He's getting older. He wasn't even the greatest primary option in his youth. He was the only option in his youth. Now he's in a different boat. It's got to be Anthony Davis's team. And, yeah, Rudy, we're going to have to probably find a couple other guys that can really hold it down with him too. Or else I don't think this Lakers team is going to win a championship. But I think they've got a really good chance this year. I think it's going to be a real compelling year out in the West, especially because I think that's where the champs are coming from this year. I think there's 4 or 5 teams that all look really punchy, and probably another 4 or 5 teams that'll give them a run for their money. It's going to be a great playoffs this year, dude. And thankfully, the Clippers are making this way more exciting for LA sports fans than normal, because I dare say, based on last night, yeah, the Clippers look like the odds-on favorites to win the championship, and Vegas has my back on that.
Well, I definitely want to see what's going to go on with Los Angeles. They need to make those corrections. They need to get somebody else involved. They need someone to step up in the mass way that this Lakers team historically has had those dagger shooters. And yes, I'm going to put Kobe Bryant there, because even though he was supposed to make the shots that he did, and he made them about 80 to 90% of the time, even on the waning years of him being in the purple and gold with the Lakers. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show with Tucker Dale Booth for just a few minutes longer. Tucker, where can everybody hear all your other good stuff you have going on? And give a shout out to those that deserve one.
Well, I got to definitely hype my new blog that I've got. It's at FromTheBackTees.com for all you golf-loving people out there. I am doing a lot of big stuff with FromTheBackTees.com. The blog is called Rappers Don't Golf. If you run that hashtag into any social media, but especially Twitter, Rappers Don't Golf is the blog. I've already put out some real deep dive stuff, but I got an even bigger one coming out this week, Rudy. It is a 13,000 plus word piece that I've written. It's taken me almost 5 months. And
Wow.
This is a really amazing story. It's true. It's all about the guy that was the architect, the Leonardo da Vinci, if you will, of the Golf Channel. His name is Michael J. Whalen. Michael J. Whalen is an amazing dude. I don't want to give too much away about the piece, but I'll say this. This is a story of really, really tough beginnings and a tough childhood. It's the story of overcoming mental illness. It's a story of genius that actually realized all the potential that it could realize and started something that is a billion-dollar industry and beloved by people like myself in the Golf Channel. And it also involves surviving surviving life, surviving all kinds of things that could have killed him. It's an amazing story. So be looking for that. FromTheBackTees.com. Rappers Don't Golf is the blog. The piece is called I Built a Masterpiece and Then I Fell Apart. It will be dropping this weekend. I'm super proud of it. So check that out. Otherwise, Tucker Dale Booth on Twitter. My record label, TantrumNiche.com. Or actually, we're on Twitter now. Tantrum, N-I-C-H-E. Tantrum like a temper tantrum. Niche. Tantrum Niche online. And shout-outs to the Mitchell Report up there in Canada.
Hey.
Just did a new podcast with Rory about the Joker movie. You can check that out on the Mitchell Report hashtag on Twitter as well, or official Rory on Twitter as well. So thanks for having me, Rudy, man. It's good talking to you, dude.
Yeah, good. Likewise, man. You know, speaking of things up and coming, go to TheRudeDogShow.com. I'm going to have hopefully a conversation with both Michael Girardi and Will Blackman, one former NFLer. The other one covers NFL Network. We're going to talk about everything in Week 8 and Week 9 in the NFL. So tune in for that one. Of course, the Lakers' upcoming schedule doesn't get any easier. They head into Utah to take on the Jazz. They're at home against the Jazz. They're on the road against Hornets. Sorry, the schedule's not really written as efficiently as I wanted to. Hornets visit Los Angeles on the 27th. Grizzlies visit Los Angeles 29th. Lakers go to Dallas, take on the Mavericks on November 1st. Lakers Spurs, since they're on the road, this is a road trip going to San Antonio to take on Papa and the Spurs. Of course, that's not a song. That's an actual coach, Popovich. And, of course, the Lakers take on the Bulls in that long sweep. This is Rudy Reyes on The Rude Dog Show. Go to TheRudeDogShow.com. This podcast will be posted. It will be on Twitter. It will be on LinkedIn. And don't forget, if you want to market with me on terrestrial radio, and those in broadcast certainly know what that means, contact me. For those that don't, contact me. I'll give you all the information, send you a media kit, and we can move on. This is Rudy Reyes on The Rude Dog Show. Thanks, Tucker. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely do this again a lot sooner and not later.
Right on, brother. Go L.A. basketball. Go L.A. Rams. 4-3, back in the winning circle, man. Go L.A. sports. Rock on.
Thanks, Tucker. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is Rudy Reyes on TheRudeDogShow.com. And, of course, go through me, follow at Rude Dog Reyes. Go to @TheRudeDogShow. And, of course, follow me at Rude Dog Entertainment. Of course, that is my entertainment LLC. Feel free to drop me a line, a note, if you want to market. Again, shoot me an email at TheRudeDogShow@hotmail.com. This is Rudy Reyes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.